Greg Kelly on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Let's find out what's going on from somebody who knows what the hell's going on. His name is Mark Halperin. If you want to be smarter than any political journalist out there, just go to walkingduck.com/Mark, walkingduck.com/Mark. Mark Halperin, veteran of I don't know how many campaigns. He's been doing this for, 30, 40 years. Mark, can you believe it? What's going on?
Greg, I need to warn you, I'll be making up as I go along.
Well, we all have to do that from time to time. But, Mark, seriously, I mean, we're hearing that Biden's on the phone with allies saying he realizes he's got to quit or that he may have to leave. That could be a smokescreen. I don't know what to believe anymore. Certainly, I don't believe the news. What are you hearing from your sources?
Well, going into the day, I was told definitively by very good sources that he wasn't planning to drop out, that he planned to ace his Stephanopoulos interview, ace his two campaign events in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, and basically convince everybody that because he's staying in, that they should stop trying to get him to go out, and that there was nothing short of maybe Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries going to him that would get him out of the race. This quote that's being peddled around, pretty sure I know who it's from. I don't read Biden saying, sure, I might get out as anything but fine time. He's trying to show people in this interview in particular that he's got what it takes. And so he just told his campaign team on a call that he's every intention of staying in. Obviously, it can change on a dime. Obviously, no one should be surprised if he does get out. But I still think he's bought himself time through the weekend. And I think if he aces it, he may be back in a position where he can survive this and go back to trying to beat Donald Trump rather than trying to keep his job.
Now, what I mean, ace it. I mean, it's a sit down with a friendly interviewer. I mean, George Stephanopoulos is a Democrat. We'll see what happens. I've seen him go after people, almost exclusively Republicans. But if he gets through a taped interview, that's not exactly a high wire act. And neither are campaign events. I mean, is that going to be sufficient for this guy to bounce back?
Well, it's a great and fair question, Greg. And it's a little bit hard to process the right answer to that because it shouldn't have taken, as you know well, it shouldn't have taken the debate for Democrats to reach the conclusion that they've now reached in a panic. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah. So what's going to be good enough for them now? And frankly, for the media. You know, the media now is writing all these stories that you've been talking about and I've been writing about for months. You know, all of a sudden it's like, people are saying Biden didn't have it together. They have these allegedly behind-the-scenes accounts. You don't need a behind-the-scenes account. So we don't know where they'll put the ball, right? But I would say, because remember, they can't force Biden out. They can't force him out. I would say that if he's as good as he typically is, +2, that may be good enough to save the nomination because there are risks to changing. You know, he's meeting with some governors at the White House tonight. If he's good with them, even though it's at 6:30 outside, 2.5 hours outside the comfort zone, but if he's good with them and they start to say to people he was right on top of that subject matter, really, different than he was in the debate, I do believe people are writing off his prospects of saving this too lively because, again, wherever they put the bar, it's going to be if he's the way he normally is +2, and he can't be that. Then I think there are going to be some number of Democrats who say good enough. All
right. The media feeling the heat. They should be. I mean, conservative media calling him out. We've been talking about Joe Biden's infirmities since 2019, 2018. What about his top aides? What about Zients? What about Klain? I know he doesn't work there anymore, but I mean, these people are being accused, I think rightfully so, of a cover-up, engaging in a cover-up. And I don't want them to get away with it. Now, are they feeling the heat? Are they feeling the pressure?
Yes, they are. The Biden operation, it's been rightly famous for being unified, not backbiting, not leaking. You've seen more leaks and blind quotes, negative blind quotes, and trashing of Joe Biden and Jill Biden in the last 5 days than I would argue the entire administration. And that is, coming down hard on the leaders at the White House. Look, history is going to judge them. If they think they were doing the country a favor and their party a favor by not just lying, not just engaged in a cover-up, but also a conspiracy with each other in the media, well, I'm not sure history's going to see that as them doing the country and the party a favor. If the Democrats lose this election, it will be in part because they engage in a very foolish cover-up and conspiracy.
And it's wild to think about what Joe Biden's life would be like post-presidency if, in fact, he stays in, loses in November, and is an ex-president on January 20th, the afternoon of. I think that's not a good life for him. I think if he were to get out now, he would be treated, if Trump does win, much better. I mean, Nixon on the way out, I know there were negotiations about how he will be treated post-presidency. I wonder, does that make sense to you? Don't you think he would have an easier time of it if he gets out on his own accord?
Maybe, Greg, but people are going to know that he stayed in this long and that he chose to run for election in the first place. What a obviously misguided thing to do. So will he be moderately on the margins better seen if he gets out now? I guess, but again, if they lose, it's going to be at his doorstep.
That's wild. All right, just a couple more quick things. You mentioned the leaks that are going on and the infighting. What about like the multiple excuses? First, there was the cold. Then he was overprepared. Now I'm hearing he was jet lagged. What does that tell you, if anything? It seems like ineptitude actually behind the scenes, but what do you make of those excuses?
Well, they're pathetic, and I've heard from so many Democrats today about how pathetic they are. Look, they've actually done, overall, a miraculous job since the debated team in keeping this thing from spiraling even further out of control. They've been very aggressive, and their messaging's been okay. But on this, I don't know if it's his fault, their fault, but it's professional malpractice. I mean, not just making excuses and not just changing their story, but being dishonest about it when the American people can see with their eyes what's been going on and what's going on here. So I don't know that they could have gone with the truth, but these changing clear lies, it's just a bad one.
Two more quick things. Number one, I am still stumped by the debate itself, that it happened, that they allowed it to happen. They knew he was had problems. They let this debate happen so early. We've talked about this before. You don't see any kind of dark, sinister forces behind the scenes trying to set Joe Biden up. No? No.
Greg, they didn't let it happen. They pushed for it to happen. And they pushed for it to happen because their data about where the race stands is darker than the public data. They couldn't see how they were going to win this election without a game-changing move in the spring and the late summer, early summer. They had to do something, and they couldn't come up with anything else.
Okay. The other thing is George Stephanopoulos. We've all known him for a long time. I think over the past couple of years, he really has come down with Trump derangement syndrome hard. He may be very knowledgeable, but he's not fair. He's a vicious partisan right now. What is he going to do? How is he going to treat this interview, the big interview with Biden on Friday?
Well, my hope is that he doesn't just ask him the most obvious questions. How can you reassure people? I'd like him to ask him some hard, substantive questions and see the president answer substantive questions, which he couldn't do in the debate. George, like the two CNN moderators, knows that he's under the microscope on this. So I'm not sure he'll ask the exact questions Greg Kelly would ask, but I think the questions will be relatively hard.
Well, it's an amazing time to be alive. And Mark,
it really
is wild. Mark Halperin, I think the best place to go is walkingduck.com/Mark, walkingduck.com/Mark. Great content, great insight. Everybody in the know is reading Mark Halperin. Mark, we appreciate it. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Greg. Great to talk to you.
You bet. Take care now. He knows his stuff. And do we want to listen to Karine? Why should we? She's just lying to us. I refute. She's banned. Remind me. She is banned from now on, KJP. I shall return.
Greg Kelly.
Economists warn that massive tax hikes could devastate your IRA and 401k as the stock market braces for impact. I'm Larry Kudlow, and I urge you to fortify your savings with physical gold with my friends at Priority Gold. To learn how gold and silver can help diversify your savings, please call 1-800-405-GOLD or Just visit PriorityGold.com to get a free gold information guide. That's 1-800-405-GOLD.